All right, so welcome everyone. Today is November 18th, and we will be going over promotions in Counterpoint. And the first thing I need to tell you about promotions, this is a very important concept. From the main menu, I'm going to Inventory, then Prices, and we're going to be talking about these three buttons here: Contract Prices, Promotional Prices, and Special Prices. And I specifically and purposely said them to you in that order, because in Counterpoint, when we talk about promotions or things that are on sale, Counterpoint, when you're ringing up a ticket, it looks at the items on the ticket in this order. It will first look to see, are there any contract rules that qualify? If there are not any contract rules, it will look then at promotional prices. And lastly, if there's nothing that qualifies, it will look at specials. Now, just very quickly, some examples of contract prices, and I'll go into contracts so you can see this. A very typical example of a contract price might be something like either a members, maybe you have a loyalty program that if members get a certain discount, or employee. Employee is a really common example of a contract rule. When I talk about contract rules, what is typically the driving force with a contract rule is usually who is the person, who's getting rung up at the register. And a very common way that we would identify the group of people that get this particular benefit is usually just by customer category. That's a simple way where anybody that's assigned to this customer category, they get the discount. And again, employees, really simple, straightforward example that gets used quite often. As I look at this, this is me talking again. Can everybody hear me or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, my bad. I believe I'll just go back 1 second because I might have been cut off there for a moment. With a contract rule, the driving force is who it's assigned to. In this case, we have an employee contract rule. It applies to anyone who's in the category of employee. And on the Rules tab, this is where we define what's going to happen. And in this example, I have just a single rule, a very simple rule. This rule is of type discount. It's off of price 1, which is your retail price. And in this case, it's a 20% discount. And if I go look at my items tab, this is where I could filter this a little bit. There's also a sales tab where there's other filtering I can do. So again, I'm trying to start with a very high-level simple example. So my high-level simple example is, hey, we have an employee discount. It applies to anybody in the category employee. And what's the rule? The rule is 20% off, and it's anything. There's no restrictions. Another example I'll show you here, if I go next. I already have a members rule. This applies, this would be like a loyalty kind of thing. But if you have a customer category called members, anyone who's assigned to this group, if I go to my rules tab, my example company happens to be a golf company. But this particular example, I have a simple rule set up. In this case, it's 10% off of retail price 1. And on the items tab, this is filtered a little bit. So for my members loyalty program, yep, they get a 10% discount, but applies just to one particular category. Okay, so just very, very high level, that's example of contracts. Okay, I'm going to go back to my employee rule just to show you, kind of play around with this a little bit. Let's say, yeah, it's great that they get 20% off, but maybe your golf category, you don't make much margin there. So maybe for the golf category, we want to limit this discount a little bit. So I'm going to add a second rule, and I'm going to call this golf 10%. And right here, this is where we get to set the rule. Per method, there's a few methods and I'll talk a little bit more about these two when we get into promotions. A very common one is going to be discount percent. That's probably the most common. But occasionally you'll have folks who will do like a markup. So you'll say, based off of cost, I want to go up 3% above cost. You might have a wholesale group, and you want to sell to those folks 3% above cost. So that is definitely something possible. But of all these, by far the most common is discount percent. If we say we're doing a discount percent, we have to tell Counterpoint a percent off of what? You have a few choices. Most common is price one, which is your retail price. Once in a while, someone might decide to do off of a different price here, but by price one, by far is the most common. And then I get to decide how much. So in this case, I'm going to do a little bit lesser discount, 10% off of golf. And for this rule to do what I want, I have to go to my items tab, and I have to come in here and select this category. And I'm going to go ahead here and hit save line. So you can see right now I have this employee contract rule, and I'm saying 20% off, and I also have a very specific case of 10%. Now at this point, if we went and tested my rule, this rule will fail. Even though I put this in so nicely, everything, even my golf items, will keep ringing up as 20% off. You'll say, how can that be? And the reason why is that within Counterpoint, the order of these rules actually matters. And so over here, there's some buttons as a reminder that this matters. I'm going to highlight my second line, and I'm going to choose a choice here that says move up. And again, the order here matters. Why does it matter? Because when Counterpoint is looking at items on your tickets, if there's a contract rule that applies, it's going to look at the first rule and say, does this item apply? If it does, then this rule wins, and it doesn't look any further. So when you create rules, if you have multiple lines, you need to be thinking about the order, because the order does matter. Okay? So in this example right now, we've got a cool sale, or this is an ongoing contract for employees, and you can see here that if it's in the category of golf, they'll get 10% off. Any other item, they're going to get 20. So that's an example of a contract rule. And I want to show you as we go through our examples today, and again, we'll look at contracts, then promos and specials. As you set these things up, how do you know if you did it right? One thing is we could just go into point of sale and try ringing it up, and that'll give us a clue as to what's going on. But even better is under inventory, if I go to utilities, there's something called price test. This may be one of my favorite features in all of Counterpoint. And the reason why I say that is I can come in, I can pick some item, grab some golf club, whatever, and I can say get price. And this will come up and it'll tell me what the calculated price is. Wow, this is not a cheap club, so $829 for this club, okay? But what's awesome here, it's great that I know the price, but even better about this is it tells me how did it arrive at this price. In this case, the method was price one. This just means it's ringing up at whatever I set up for the item. Now I'm purposely going to go in. I've got myself in here as an employee. So I'm going to go find myself, and I'm going to say get price. And now you'll notice here, this new calculated price is reduced, $746. And it's good to know that. But what I like even better is it tells me why, right? And I'll tell you, long before I ever worked at LPA, I worked at another retailer, and we'd get calls from the stores or the regional managers, and it'd be a panic, Saturday morning, and they'd call up and say, hey, this item, it's ringing up at $12.95, why? And we didn't know why, and we didn't have this nifty tool, and we'd have to go dig through, hundreds of lines of code to try to figure out why some item is ringing up at some price we didn't expect. With Counterpoint, you don't have to guess, right? You come in, inventory utilities price test, you put in your item, and you say, go get price. Now, in this case, I said this was for me. I think I've got a member here. Here's a member. If I say get price for this member, it also rang up at $746, but that's because of the members. They're in the members group. That's why they got 10% off. So super handy. I can't tell you how many times this has either saved me or saved one of my customers, because all of a sudden Tuesday morning, why are these items ringing up at 50% off? Nobody knows, and we go check this and we find out pretty quickly what's going on. And finally, the best part about this is not just the fact that you can check what is the price for an item today. Probably the best thing is I can pick a date in the future. So let's say we're going to be doing a Black Friday sale. for next weekend, right? But you're setting this up today. Maybe you plan to have Black Friday off, right? Maybe you're one of those lucky people that doesn't have to work on Black Friday. But how do you know if your rule is going to set up or work correctly? Because you set this up a week in advance. You want to make sure it's working so you don't get a call on your day off. So this nifty utility, not only can you say, go get my price, but you can pick a date. You can even pick a location in the future and say, go get price. Now, in this example, since it's a contract rule, the date range doesn't really drive it, but we will be doing some promotion examples where date is a factor, and maybe we'll come back here and see how that plays out. So that, again, that's the price test utility. The only trick about that people don't maybe notice sometimes is when you're setting up your prices, you are in inventory prices. That's the folder tree you're in. And the price test, your eye kind of looks in here for a price test. You just have to remember to go to utilities because that's where your price test is. So that's a little bit about that. So I'm going to go back now to kind of our big picture. And before you might have mentioned, or remember I mentioned, Counterpoint looks at, when we're ringing up things in the store, it looks at contract rules first. If nothing qualifies, it's going to look at promotions. And lastly, look at specials. So contracts is a very common one for things like membership clubs or employees. But now we'll talk about promotional. And promotional, most of the time, if I'm getting a call with, we need help with an upcoming sale, I would say 95% of the time, it's a promotion that we need to set up. So I'm going to pull open here. I have an example. I have a 4th of July sale that was set up in the past. I'm just going to kind of show you what this looks like. And then we're going to create our own sale from scratch for a Black Friday sale. So you can see how this all works. With promotions, a little bit different than contract rules. With a promotion, the driving force is usually a date range. So for this example, this was a sale from back in 2015, and this was a July 4th sale. So a couple days right around July 4th, and that was the driving factor. It didn't matter who the customer was, it just mattered if they were in the store on these dates. So in this case, this was 15% off of my golf category. Just like the contract rules, this form behaves very much the same way. There's a rules tab, and if I come in here, I'm going to highlight an existing rule to see what's going on. So I have a simple existing rule. It's of type discount percent. It happens to be 15% off. And if I go over to my items tab, then this was filtered a little bit. Okay. Now there still is a customer filter. So in some cases, if you chose to, you could still filter this a little bit, but that would be somewhat unusual for a promotion. Usually promotions apply to any customers. And lastly, with promotions, there's even a filter called sales. And this is where if you are let's say you're one of our vendors or our customers who has multiple locations or stores, you can actually create promotions by store. So maybe you have a really awesome sale for your Rochester location, but nobody in the Twin Cities is going to get this deal. So you could actually create a promotion and just specify a single store, and that's how you can filter that. So that's a 4th of July sale, but now let's actually build one from scratch because that's what you guys will be doing when you're creating your first time promotions. So the starting point for creating promotion is I'm going to give this a name. We'll just call this December sale. And let's see, we'll say, I guess this is, let's say this is for all of December. So for beginning date, we will say December, and we'll go right up till the end of December 31st. So this is kind of a nice holiday month of December. You get a discount, right? So here's our December sale. I'll even put in a name 2021. Okay. And again, date range promos are almost always driven by date range. So there we go. We got our promotion started. And now we get to decide what we want to do. So let's mix it up a little bit here. I'll say 20% off apparel. If I knew how to spell apparel. So that's the name of the rule, but nothing really happens until I define it over here. So we come here, and I'm going to start by saying, again, very common is a discount percent off of price one is the most common. And we said this was going to be 20%. And at this point, if I did nothing else, even though I named this 20% off apparel, if I save this and went about my business, I'd get the stores calling me saying, hey, how come everything in the store is ringing up as 20% off? And the answer to that is you have to remember to go to your items tab, and if you're going to have a percentage off for a category or whatnot, you do need to filter that a little bit here. So that's where I'm headed. So item category, I've got a category called apparel, and now that's dialed in a little bit. I'll go ahead and hit my save line. You can notice above here there's this nifty form. You can see what's going on. I will tell you one thing about this form that takes a little getting used to. If I go into promotional prices, I go look up my December sale. I say, oh, I'll go check my rules. And down here, it looks like there's nothing going on. You're like, oh my gosh, this is totally not set up right. You have to just remember to highlight your rule. Counterpoint by default always drops down to that open line as if you're ready to add your next rule. So just know if you want to make changes, whatever, that you want to check on that. So that is a very simple December sale. Let's add on to this. Let's do 25%. Let's see, let's do 25% off golf. So again, I'm going to do, discount percent off of price one, and I get to pick my percentage. Okay, so this is just an example of you could have multiple rules. Now you can see right up here, this is why I kind of like to, my eye floats up here after I save rules and whatnot. I forgot to set my category. So again, right now, everything in the store is going to start ringing up at 25% off. So good reminder, I'm going to come in here, pick my category. So like so. Okay, so now the order of these, I'm not so worried about the order on these two rules because they're totally separate categories. And an item can only be in one category at a time. So the order on these particular rules, I'm not too worried about. But let's say Big Bertha. I could have a very specific item. So this would be an example. I could even have a fixed price. So I could come in and say a single item, $250, and I can come in here and pick out, see if I find it. This is going to be a heck of a sale. My Big Bertha driver, it's usually $369. Wow, this is a heck of a sale. I'm going to put that on sale for $250. Oops, it's not what I meant to click at all. So here we go. Grab this up. Save line. So this is an example where you can be very, very specific. So on my prices, I had a different rule here. Instead of a discount percent, I said I'm going to pick a price, and the price that I choose is this. Now at this point, if we went and tested this rule, my Big Bertha driver is never going to see my $250 nifty price because this golf rule is going to happen first. So again, the order of this matters, and so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to move that right up to the top because that's a very specific item. If I don't move that up, we're never going to see it. So let's go test these, right? I said all these rules got created, but let's test this. So I'm going to save what I got, and just as a refresher, what is this rule supposed to do? It's only for the month of December. I have a very specific price for one item. I get some 20% off apparel, 25% off golf, and it doesn't matter who the customer is. It doesn't matter which store it is. These should all kick in. Now, as I'm doing this, there's one survival skill I want to be sure I point out to everybody. Sometimes you might create a rule and you think you did a really great job and you save it and you're about to go, I don't know, do something else, and somebody comes to you from the registers and says, hey, every item in the store is ringing up as $4.49. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you were just setting up some sale for like socks, and you're like, what did I do? There's a very great checkbox here called enabled. And if you were working on a sale, you don't even know what you did, but all of a sudden everything's terrible in the store, just uncheck this and hit save. That will immediately take any rule that you just created out of play. Does that make sense? So it doesn't matter the date range, doesn't matter your rules, nothing. This enabled or not enabled checkbox rules everything. And I've had more than one time where someone's called me up in a panic and they're saying, everything's ringing up wrong. And I say, were you working on any rules today? And they say, yeah, I was. I said, well, let's go find those. We're going to uncheck this. And as soon as we uncheck it and hit save, that rule's out of play. And then they'll say, oh, good, thank you. Everything's back to normal. And then in your leisure, without the pressure of what's happening in the store, you can come back in and look at your rules and realize that, oh, I created a certain rule and I forgot to filter for the item or who knows what. But that is a very good checkbox to know about to save yourself in a crisis. So let's go check out this rule. I said that we created this rule, but now let's prove that it works. And I can't test this in point of sale because it's not December, right? How do I know if this is really going to work? So luckily for us, under inventory and the utilities, good for us, we can go right there, price test. Looks pretty cool. And let's try out some items here. So I'm going to start off with this Big Bertha. I am not a golfer, by the way, so if you text me later and say those prices were crazy, then I'll say you're right. It shows what I know. So right now, this Big Bertha, if I say get price today, it's ringing up at the full amount. Fair enough, I get it, okay? However, let's say I want to look in the future, and we'll move up into December. So even December 1st, we said that's when our promo kicks in. So if I say get price, now look at that. This is really interesting. My 25% off sale kicked in. I'm kind of, oh, I grabbed the wrong item. Shows what I know. Let me try that one more time. This was the item we put on sale. There we go. Much better. So good. Life still makes sense. So this was the item. We had a very special sale. It's a very special price, $250 month of December. If I even went one day past December to January 1st, if I say get price, sales off. So promotions are awesome because you can set a date range. You can set it up in advance. When the time of the sale comes, there's nothing you have to do. It'll just kick in. And using the price test utility like we just did, let me go back to December, prove that any date in December, voila, our sale is going to kick in, okay? Now, I will tell you that sometimes you can get in trouble with rules, and here's an example. Here I am, Tom Downs. I am an employee, and we say get price. Let's see here. Let's kick in. So here we are, get price, no sale then. All right, I need to check this item real quick. I'm surprised that I'm not getting my employee discount. Let me just check that out real quick. I'm not going to get hung up on this, but I'm just curious really quickly. All right, well, I'll be honest, I'm not quite sure. I thought this might have kicked in. Normally I would have expected that. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I don't want to get too hung up on that this second. I'll check on that later, see what's going on. Anyway, so that's a promotion. So again, huge advantage about promotions is the very fact that you can set it up in advance, you can test it in advance, and you can be as specific or not. Sometimes when I'm training people the very first time, they want to know, well, you know, how specific or not specific should we get on these? And I'm always a big fan of start simple, right? Category sales, or you could do sales based off of vendors, or you can even go down to a subcategory level. Super easy to set those up. Occasionally people want to do very specific sales like I did here. In this case, where you pick an individual item and you put it on a very sale price for a very specific price. So those are, again, I would say probably 80–85% of calls I get are probably answered with just what I've shown you so far. So that's just a little bit about that. I'm mindful of the time here. So I'm going to move on to the next question, which is a really common one, which is, oh, I'm sorry, before I finish this. So the order matters. So back here under inventory prices. So Counterpoint looks at contracts, then promotions and specials. I will show you specials briefly. I'll be honest, I don't do much with specials. Specials to me are very much like promotions. They're typically date range driven, although it's not as obvious in this form. You have to go all the way to the sales tab to do anything with a date. And so I'm not a big fan of specials. Usually the customers that I work with, between contract rules and promotions, typically we always can find the way to accomplish whatever we want to accomplish. But if really need be, there's that specials. The other thing I'm not a fan of specials, it's the very last one to be looked at. So you could create the greatest special on the planet, but if some other rule qualifies in advance, that's the rule that wins. And I guess I should underline that point. Counterpoint, when you're setting these rules up, it is not, sometimes I think people are kind of looking for, they expect that it will be best price, that somehow Counterpoint will look at every possible rule and give you whatever is the best price. And I'm just here to tell you that just the way Counterpoint's configured, that's not the way they chose to do that. Instead, they give you the full power to decide which rule is going to apply, but it's based on getting the order proper in the correct order. Now, by the way, I should mention on promotions, or actually any of these rules, you create these. In my example here, this is just a demo company. I have just a few rules. I have some customers that might have 35 or 40 rules at any one time. And even within these rules, the first one that qualify wins. And you say, well, how do you set the order within promotions? And that's why there's a button over here called Set Group Order. So I'm going to click on this for a moment. And here, just like almost like working with individual lines on a promotion, even these can be moved up and down. So sometimes you might create the best promotion ever. You go to a price test utility, and some sale you weren't expecting is winning the day, and maybe it's not as good of a discount. And you're like, oh my gosh, how did that get to be the one that was chosen? And oftentimes it's just because of this group order. So again, I don't mean to belabor the point, but it's a big deal because it confuses people. Contracts, promotions, specials, and within each individual one of these, Counterpoint has a group order that allows you to pick that order. And even within a sale, Counterpoint starts at the top, first one that qualifies wins, and it goes on. So that's a heads up as to how Counterpoint thinks. So I'm going to switch gears now, and I want to go to BOGOs, and this is such a common question. We get asked this a lot with BOGOs. So buy one, get one free, or buy one, get the second one 50% off, or whatever. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to do two examples of BOGOs. This is actually, the first one's actually a real life example someone asked me about this week, about a pizza sale. So I'm going to show you a pizza sale, and then I'm going to show you a socks, buy some socks, buy one, get one free kind of thing. So here we go. So before I get going here, I want to show you under items, just to show you that I've got these set up already. I have, if I go look at my items, under my pizzas, I have a number of pizzas already set up here. I have a couple pizzas that are one topping only, and I have one pizza that's just a cheese pizza. How come I don't see my cheese? Hang on 1 second. So much for a great example. Oh, I spelled pizza wrong. Good job. Good job, Tom. Computers are so picky. So check this out one more time. So here we go. So I've got a cheese pizza, which is for $10, and I have one single topping pizzas that are $12. I have something completely unrelated, which is a pizza slice. But let's say I wanted to do a deal on my one topping pizzas. And let's say if you buy 2 or more of any of these, I want to give you 10% off, right? Kind of a nice sale, nice of you to do that. But it only applies to the one topping pizzas. Doesn't apply to a cheese pizza, doesn't apply to a pizza slice. I've got to, first of all, come up with some way in Counterpoint to tell Counterpoint that these three items go together. And I can't use category, subcategory, because all these things are in the same category. I have to come up with a new way. So in Counterpoint, we've got this nifty thing called the mix and match code. You might have seen this at some point and always thought, what the heck is that for? Mix and match code allows us the ability to link some items together for a sale. So in this case, I've got pepperoni pizza, and I want to say you're part of my one topping group. Now, right now for my mix and match codes, if I click on my lookup, I don't have one called one topping pizza, whatever, but that's okay because we're going to add one. So how do you add a new mix and match code? You click on the lookup, you hit add, and you can give it a name. So I'm going to call this, I'm limited on characters, so see how far I get. One top. Oh, good. So I get to do this. Just by doing that, hitting save, look at that. If I click on my lookup, now I've got a new choice. So this is how I can link together a few items that otherwise would have nothing to link on. So there's my pizza pepperoni. I'm going to do the same thing for my sausage and my Italian sausage. So right now, if I go back to, I'm going to save that. If I go back to my table view, you can see here, I assigned a mix and match code to 3 of my items. Cheese doesn't get to be part of the program. Pizza slice doesn't have anything to do with this. We're just looking at these. And oftentimes on a mix and match, the items you're going after are oftentimes similar price. That's a pretty common thing with any of these mix and match sales. So here we go. We're off to a great start. And I go back now to inventory, prices. I'm going to create a brand new promotion. We're going to call this one topping pizza. One topping sale. So you'll notice here, here's mix and match code. And here's our recently created pizza one top. So I get to choose that. Promotion, oftentimes date range driven. Maybe this is only for next weekend, kind of a Black Friday promotion. So we'll do a little, we'll do 11/26 through the end of the weekend. Like so. And now here are my rules. Now, oftentimes with my rules, I don't get very fancy with my rule name. I'd call them things like Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3, because it's not the name that matters. And by giving very generic names, it kind of helps me remember that isn't what's the driving force. What's driving is what I'm going to put over here in these boxes on the right. So here we go. Wish me luck. We're going to say if you buy 2 or more, maybe some of you might have noticed earlier there's this quantity field, and I didn't really draw any attention to it. This quantity field comes into play when the promotion or the discount is based on how many of something you buy, right? So you could have an individual item, let's say just an individual cheese pizza. You could say buy 3 or more, and get $1 off or something. But this is where that quantity field comes into play, where we specify that. In this case, we're going to do this. I said that my sale today was if you buy 3 or more or 2 more, you're going to get a little bit of a price break here. Really simplified sale here, I'll say 10%. So this topping sale, I just better put a little note here. Pizza one top, 10% if buy 2, that kind of thing. So now right now, if we went and tested this out, actually we'll go try this. Let's try this out. We're going to try it out just as is. And this mix and match code, you might notice, hey, you didn't filter on the item tab. It's because this mix and match code is the driving force right now. So we're going to go try this out, see how this does. So you know about utilities price test now, super handy. And I'm going to go pick one of my pizzas. So here's pepperoni. If I say get price, that makes sense. It's a single item, no discount so far. I can say what happens if I bought 2, and epic fail. So let's go check out my promo here. Okay, so there's some extra boxes here that take into account. If you're doing something with mixed match codes, you want to use these boxes here called BOGO. So I'm going to click these guys, and we'll see how those affect what's going on. So again, back to price test. I'll say here's my item, pizza pepperoni. Again, if I was buying only one, that makes sense. If I bought two, get price. Wow, I am really failing here. So much for my fantastic example. Let me check a store setting really quick. I haven't tested this yesterday, so this is kind of surprising me that I'm blowing this. Oh, hey, thank you. Okay, thank you. You guys are my supporters. Thank you. I wasn't thinking about dates. All right, sorry, I forgot it was a Black Friday sale. My bad. See why it helps to have friends? That's Kathy?
Yeah, Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Kathy and Connie. Thank you, Connie. All right, back to reality. You get nervous and you make mistakes. All right, thank you. So here we are. That's just a test. Make sure you guys are paying attention. All right, so as you pointed out, if I bring this up today, no go. If I even did my discount or my quantities, no go. But let's go back to one. And now that you guys got me on the right track, let's go look at, I forgot it's Black Friday sale. So we go look at this date. Okay, single item on Black Friday, no discount. If we bump this up to 2, voila, thank you all. There you go. Okay. Now, the real power of this, though, with BOGOs is that it goes across items. And sadly, the price test, this is one thing that the price test doesn't do. It doesn't give me the ability to try to check out multiple items here. So that's a little bit of a limitation. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my promo. And just for the sake of our testing here, I'm going to include, go back to today, actually even the day or two before. Because I want to show you guys what this looks like. So what is this all about? We have a mix and match code that's in the driver's seat, and we have a rule that says 2 or more, we're going to take 10% off. So here we go, cha-cha-cha. So to test this, I'm actually going to go into point of sale. I know some people love it when the instructor gets stumped. So for those people, that was a little gift. That was a little gift to you. You're welcome. All right, so here we go. I expanded my sale to include today. One is ringing up at $12. If I go drop on another pepperoni, hey, look at that, drop down. I got a break down at 1080. But what's even better, I'm going to take off the second line here for a moment. You notice that price immediately refreshes. That was a pepperoni. If I throw on a sausage, that, hey, look at that, qualified, right? Throw on my Italian sausage, and that is proper. First two, because in our BOGOs, typically on a BOGO, you require the full group to qualify. And so this is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. As soon as I throw on another one, even if I just change the quantity of the second one to 2, that would qualify, and look at that. So thank you all. That is working exactly like it's supposed to. In this example, I was doing a discount once you reach the magic moment of 2 or more, right? So now I'm going to pop out of here, and I'm going to show you a different example. Same concept, but I get so many questions on these, it's worth a second example. In this case, I have set up some Nike socks. So if I go to Nike, I'll prove to you. I have a few socks here. And with mix and match codes, it's pretty common that they're relatively the same price point, which is why you can do things like buy one, get one free, or buy two, get the third one free, whatever. Pretty common, they're similar price points. But again, right now, there's nothing to really link these together. And so I have to come up with some way to link these together. So I'm going to go back to my mix and match code. You guys now know the secret of how you create a new one. Click the lookup, hit add, and I'll call this Nike sock. Just some way then I'm going to put these together. This is how I get to say these go together. Okay? So boom. So that's how I get to choose who's included. In my table view, I added mix and match code here, so it's really easy for me to see that, but these now are all part of the sale. Okay? So we're going to go create this BOGO. And wish me luck. Inventory, prices, promos. So here's my Nike sock sale. Okay, again, the driving factor here is going to be this mix match code. I'm not going to have any beginning or ending date on this promo. And here we go. Again, I'm not too fancy with my rule names because what really matters is what happens over here. So let's say if you buy 2 or more, well, here's a common example. Really common example is I buy 1, second one's free, okay? Now, even though that's how people phrase it, the way we in Counterpoint typically would create this rule is we would actually do it like this. And again, it seems odd that I didn't do any filtering on the items tab, but I don't need to do that simply because this mix and match code is going to be in the driver's seat. So at first glance, this might look a little bit odd. You're like, well, how does that, don't forget to check my BOGO things. You might say this, I'm not quite sure I'm getting this, but if you think about a sale, a BOGO, buy 1, get the second one free, I could actually set this up in Counterpoint. There's a way I could set this up that when you ring at the register, the first one would get charged full price, and the second one would actually ring up at $0. I can actually do that in Counterpoint if I wanted to. But from a kind of an accounting perspective, most accountants and owners would prefer that we write it up like this, because really, if I did it the first way I described, that second item rings at $0, someday I'm going to run a margins report, and that item's going to look like I sold it below cost. It's going to look like I took a hit. That's really not true. From a promotion standpoint, really, I sold these both at 50% off. They should each take a little bit of that hit in terms of any future margin reporting. So for those of you who might be watching this saying, why is he doing it that way? It's because the accountants will beat me up later if I don't. Now, if you really say to me, Tom, I want to do it, I want the first item to ring at full price, I want the second item to ring at $0 so that the receipt looks right and the customers are happy, we can do that all day, no problem. But for the sake of this example, most of my customers want it to look like this, and so I'm going to create this rule so you can see this. So this would be a very typical BOGO. Buy 2, and the second one's free, okay? And so again, for testing this, I'm actually going to go right into point of sale simply because that's where I can have multiple items and you can see this play out. So here we go. So I'm going to go after my socks. So here's my first sock. Full price, makes sense. Grab another sock. Terrific. I don't know if you noticed that, but it jumped down from $6.50 to $3.25. I could grab a third sock. Third sock should not hit the discount yet because we said we wanted full groups to apply. And now I hit my fourth sock. Again, 4 totally different socks, but because of that mix and match code, Counterpoint knows that those qualify for our quantity breaks, and there we go. If you're doing things like buy 3, get the third one free, then it just becomes a matter of playing with your percentages. That would become like a 33% off sale, those kind of things. So it's just a matter of kind of playing with your percentages to get the different ratios. But wow, look at that. We're already at 9:50. I can't believe it. The time just flies by. That is, I got one more thing. So that's the most general sales was the first thing we went over. We just did 2 examples of BOGOs. Last thing, I'll just mention, I'm running out of time, so I won't do a full example of this, but I'll just tell you what it is because people ask about this. Under inventory prices, and again, these are the main ones, contract, promotion, specials. Sometimes people notice this thing called planned promos. Planned promos is just a utility to help you create a promotion, okay? Now, I could go into, and by the way, for liquor stores, liquor stores happen to be big users of plan promos. I could have a sale, and I could item by item come in here and say, this bottle of bourbon, $12.99. This bottle of, I don't know, skinny whatever vodka, $12.49. And you could build this one item at a time. It's a little time consuming. So liquor stores, they do a lot where it's not a whole category on sale, but they go and they're very picky and individually pick out which items they want to move. So plan promotions is a utility, and I don't have time to do a full example. Well, I might. You start by giving this some name, and you get to decide up front, who's this for? Is there a date range? I'm just going to say this month. And down here, rather than me just choose an individual item, there's a thing called add items. So I'm going to pick a category. So in this example, I'll just pick golf, but maybe for your liquor store, this might be wine, or this might be rum or something. And you could even, as you come into this, well, let me just do it without first of all. You can say, okay, this brings us in. So here's all the items in my category of golf, but now I can be very selective, right? I can say, yep, these have really been dying on the vine, and I want to change this. So I'm going to put in, this was $24.99. I really want these to move. I'm going to drop just that item down to $19.99. Okay. Here's another dog. I'd really want to put this on sale. It's $24. I'm really going to try to move this $15.99. So this is an example where you can be so specific, and you can pick item by item. And this is called plan promotions. There's no promotions yet. But once I've kind of dialed all these in, then there's a button up here called Create Promo. It'll tell me, hey, you're about to go create this promotion. Do you really want to do this? It even gives me a preview of here's the items. And I can say, great, looks great. Yes, do you want to do this? Yes, I do. And voila, just like that, if I go over to my promotions, it actually just created this rule. And I called it test one. And you say, wow, where did these come from? It came from my plan promotion. Now, at this point, it's just a promotion. You could come in here, do anything you want with it. Maybe you changed your mind on the $15.99. You want to change that up or down. But you'll see here, what came out of the plan promotion, it created an individual rule for every single item. And in addition to what I just showed you, just to show you the power of this, and then we'll open this up for questions. When I did this, let's see here, today, and I hit my items. Along with the selection of this, I'll do golf again. Along with this selection, right here, I could put in a discount initially. So I could, if I do that, that will float in for me. I don't have to do the math. There's 20% off. Maybe I'm serious about discounting this category. But along with my 20%, I know there's some dogs, and I want to go even further. So 25%. And I've got this tool right there. I can type right into that, and as soon as I hit the next line, Counterpoint should do the math for me. Okay. Or I might just highlight a line and say, whatever the price is, I want to manhandle it to what I want it to be, $15.99, whatever. So this is just an example. Super handy tool, especially if you are discounting lots of individual items and they're not in a category, not in a specific subcategory, but you want to be very, kind of cherry pick the items that are going to go on a sale. This tool is awesome. By the way, once you've got this kind of dialed in, maybe you want to show this to somebody else before you pull the trigger. There's actually a print group. So you could print this out, give it to somebody else, say, here's what I'm thinking about for our November wine sale. They can look at this, mark it up, say yes, 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 no, 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 and then you go back and edit those and then create your promo. All right, well, that's kind of the advanced, plan promotions is kind of the advanced class. On a different day, I might have even divided that up into 2 different trainings, but there you go. So you got the whole shooting match, and we do have a few minutes here to go over questions. So JC has been watching the board. Let me know if any questions that have come up in this beautiful training. As people are thinking about any questions, I'll just give you a very quick reminder. Quite a few of you that are in the training today, we noticed that you have Counterpoint fixed fee, and that is the agreement that if you have questions, by all means, you can call us business hours, Monday through Friday, and we are more than happy to help. So if you're going to be doing any promos in the next few weeks here, getting ready for the holidays, let us know. We're happy to help set up promos with you. And of course, those of you who don't have fixed fee, you can still call too. We're happy to help as well. And just a shameless plug here as we wrap up. Just a reminder that we do have this awesome backup special for the month of December. That's not for our cloud customers, you're already taken care of, but if your server's on site, always a very good idea. We actually had two of our customers in the past year who either had fire or some kind of serious damage to their store. A server was stolen. They would have been hard pressed to recreate their store, but in both cases we had offsite data backups and we were able to get them back up and running. So it sounds like backup, but man, can really save your bacon. Oh, Connie, I see you. Connie's asked me about price sheets. I will show you price sheets very briefly for those of you who care to stay on the call. So hang on, Connie. John's asking a question here. Let me look. Hang on just a moment, John. I'm processing your question. So, John, this might be somewhat specific to you guys, and if in the 2 minutes here, if I don't answer your question, I'll be happy to share a screen with you after we get off the call here. Actually, John is one of our customers in Wisconsin, and they actually had a pizza sale this past week, which is why pizza was on my brain for an example. Let's go there. So it happened, someone had set up a rule in the past at their location, and now a couple ways this could have played out. In this case, I said $10, or I said 10%. We could have said fixed price, and I forget how much the one toppings were. Were they $12? Is that what I had those? Do you remember, JC? So let's say if you wanted to be very specific, you could say 2 or more fixed price. In this case, I get to say it's $11.50. It happened, John, when I was helping with your employees this week. There was an existing rule that someone had set up in the past. They had set it up where it looked like this. Let me get rid of this real quick. There was an existing rule that looked like this. And this is just a variation. There's nothing wrong with this. It's probably not the way I would necessarily do this. But if you set up a rule like this, then it's saying, go look at price 2 in the item. And most people don't even know there's such a thing as a price 2, but I'll show you there is. You could, this is standard counterpoint, believe it or not. You could, down here under prices, nobody ever clicks on this, but you could have alternate prices. So I could have an alternate price of $11.50. Of course, I have to be able to type. So you could specify right down here in the item. Why might you do this? If for some reason on your sale, the pepperoni went to a different price than the sausage, you could do this, but that would be so confusing. I don't even know how you'd market it to your customers that they would understand. So usually, simple is good, right? Keep it simple. So that is, it just happens. That's how our rule was set up for you folks in the past. Nothing wrong with it. When I helped your employees this week, I actually changed this instead of using, when I look at this rule, it's great, but I don't know what price 2 is. So if I'm in a hurry and I want to make sure this is set up right, I would have to go look at each item to find out if we set up the sale right. I like personally, when I helped your folks, instead of doing pick price, we went ahead and said fixed price, and then we typed it right in here. And then anybody that looks at this rule, whether it's me or somebody else in a month, all you do is click on the rule and you'll know what's going on. No, you don't have to go any further. Again, nothing wrong with price 2, and there might be really good examples of why you want that kind of flexibility. or that kind of, those many different choices, but that's why it might have been created. Okay, John says, makes sense. Thank you. Awesome. Costas, I'm on 1 cup of coffee. Take it easy on me. No, just kidding. Let's see here. Can you please show again how you move the lines up and down in promotionals? Yes. Yes, I will. So really quickly here, moving lines up and down. So let's go find a promotion. Okie dokie. I'm going to find a promotion. So in my December sale, I'm on a highlighter line. I'm purposely going to set this up wrong to show you how this could fail. So right now, individual item, this item I happen to know is in the golf category. And we'll go test this, and I bet we're never going to see this awesome price of $250 because the 25% off golf is going to hit first. So let me prove that. Right now, I can prove that with our price test. By the way, if you're not good at memorizing menus, most of you are on this menu where you have an option to do a search. There is only one price test in all of Counterpoint, so if you forget where to find it, that's an easy way. So here we go. So we have this nifty Big Bertha, and it was this one we put on sale. I can't remember if it was a December sale or not, but in case it was. So if I say get price, okay, well, it's not great, 276, but I thought I was going to get it 250, right? What's the deal, right? So let me go back to our nifty rule, and let's take this and let's move it up where it belonged in the first place. Save that, go back to my price test, get price, look at that, 250. So again, that's answer the question, how do you move lines? It's this button off to the side. And this isn't just on promotions, even I'll show you even within contract rules. Same thing comes into play. Inventory, prices. If I pick my employee. Now in this case, these were totally separate categories, so I don't think we'd have any overlap. Actually, I take that back. So we had a 10% off golf, we had a 20% off of everything, and this order matters. If I don't have this in the right order, the 20% would hit first. I'd never see my golf category. End of story. So there's our move up, move down. Yeah, let me do this. I'm just going to say we're right at our 10 o'clock, so I just want to end by saying thank you to everyone for joining us. Really appreciate you guys dialing in. We will be following up today with a link to this recording. And of course, if you have questions, reach out to us. We're very, very happy to help. For those of you who have other things to go on today with your life, thanks for joining us. We understand. And for those of you who are interested in price sheets, let me show you price sheets. Price sheets happens to be here also under inventory prices. And so far, contract prices, promotion specials, these are all sales. This is where we're not changing the price in Counterpoint, just there's a sale happening and a sale price kicks in for a period of time and goes back. And even plan promotions is just a utility to help us create a promotion. So these 3 buttons here are all, including the 4th one, are all kind of in the same, they're kind of the same animal where we're putting things on sale, right? Price one in Counterpoint, you'll notice the whole time we've been working on this today, never once did I say, let's go over to inventory item and manually change this price. That I've never said that, right? But now we're going to switch gears. There is a thing in Counterpoint under inventory prices. It's called price sheet. And I actually had a customer recently where they said, hey, a group of our items, we want to increase all the prices by 3% in a certain category, right? Now you could go into Counterpoint and get out your calculator and calculate each one. But this tool, price sheet, this is a way to bulk update prices. It could be your whole store, it could be a category, it could be a vendor, but this is a bulk changing item prices. So you have to start by giving it some name. And I promise you right now, this is the part that will confuse everybody the first time they try to use this. They'll come in, there won't be anything here, and they'll be like, what am I supposed to do? You just have, for price sheet ID, you have to give it some name. Doesn't matter what, you have to give it something so you can hit tab or enter, and you can get to the rest of the form. And this is very common in Counterpoint. You might have come across this other places. So you just have to put something in there. I'm just going to call this a test on 11, 18, 21. Now, this pops open on its own, but in case it didn't, there's a button that says Get Items. And this is where I get to pick and choose what I want to go after. So I'm going to, in my example, I'm just going to look at golf items. And here's the real power of this. I'm kind of skipping ahead because we could do multiple examples. But the real power of this is that I can say, here's a category, and give me any items that have fallen below a certain margin, right? And all you guys are retailers, and this has probably already caught your ears, right? What? You can do this? Yes. So I can say, based off of price one, show me anything that is at or below. Now you can set up in Counterpoint min-max target margins by category, but if you've never done that, you can select specific margin and put this in here. So I'm going to purposely pick a pretty high margin, so hopefully I get some hits. Show me anything, I'll actually bump this up a bit more. Show me items that I'm not making 35% in my golf category, right? I'll say Get Items. So nifty, right? I didn't have to run a report. I didn't have to get out my calculator. By just clicking a few buttons, Counterpoint is showing me, here's items that qualify, okay? And I'm just going to click my little select all and say add to price sheet. Now at this point, I haven't changed any prices, but that was me going off and saying, which prices do I even have to look at, okay? Now I can come in here and I can say, I want to come up with new prices, okay? Now there's a button called calculate prices. I could go in manually, and in my price one field, I could just type in here. So this was at 243 currently. I might bump this up to 255. I can manually change prices like that. But even better than that is this thing called calculate prices. And when I click that, this is a calculator, and I can say set margin. I can say specific. Say, hey, I want to be aggressive here. I always want to be hitting 40%. And by the way, I want to always round up to prices that are .99. Okay, so nifty little tool here. I put in some margin I want to get to. I even can put a rounding, and I can say apply. So just like that, using their little tool, and this was for 7 items, you might say big deal, but imagine you had 150 items in a particular category. So in this example, it is suggesting to me, and it even took it into account that I wanted prices to end in .99. It rounded everything up, so I'm going to hit a 40% margin automatically, okay? Some of my items I didn't have a last cost, that's why it's complaining, so I'm going to take a few of these off my list. But at this point, this is my list of, hey, here's what you're thinking of doing. I could print this sheet to view in advance what's going to happen. That would go to my printer. If I like what I'm seeing, then I can say apply. And so here's some updated prices. If I say apply price changes, boom, 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 that goes away. I should have paid closer attention to which items were on there. But if I went and looked at my items right now, you would see, and I should have paid closer attention to which one of those items were there. It actually updates price one. So that's what price sheets is all about. And if anybody needs more help on that, I realize I went over that very, very quickly. But that is kind of a different animal from our promotions that we talked about. Price sheet is when you actually want to change the price on the item, and you want to do it in bulk. And again, the cool thing about that was you can use a filter to say, find items that fell below a margin, and even use a bulk tool to recommend prices to get up to a margin. So super cool. You can print it out before you really pull the trigger. And you could, I didn't show it, but you could have manually adjusted those. Maybe you weren't really thrilled with the suggested, but you could manually change those to what you want. And then when you're ready, you hit apply price changes, and you've now just updated a bunch of items. And honestly, I did this within the last month. I did this for a customer. I think we updated over 1,000 items just because they wanted to change their margins a little bit. So, and we did it in probably less than half an hour. So super handy. Of course, it's a powerful tool, so use it with caution. But that's that. So thank you, everybody. I do appreciate you joining in today. Last shameless plug, don't forget about the backup special for December. And that's all I have today. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email support@lparetail.com, and they will get that information to me. And if we need to share a screen or go over any extra questions, be happy to do that. So thank you all for your time. Any questions, please let us know. Have a great week.